Chapter 10. Terrain. Some terrain is easily passable. In some, you get hung up. Some makes for a standoff. Some is narrow. Some is steep. Some is wide open. When both sides can come and go, the terrain is said to be easily passable. When the terrain is easily passable, take up your position first, choosing the high and sunny side, convenient to supply routes, for advantage in battle. When you can go but have a hard time getting back, you are said to be hung up. On this type of terrain, if the opponent is unprepared, you will prevail if you go forth. But if the enemy is prepared, if you go forth and do not prevail, you will have a hard time getting back, to your disadvantage. When it is disadvantageous for either side to go forth, it is called standoff terrain. On standoff terrain, even though the opponent offers you an advantage, you do not go for it. You withdraw, inducing the enemy half out, and then you attack, to your advantage. On narrow terrain, if you are there first, you should fill it up to await the opponent. If the opponent is there first, do not pursue if the opponent fills the narrows. Pursue if the opponent does not fill the narrows. On steep terrain, if you are there first, you should occupy the high and sunny side to await the opponent. If the opponent is there first, withdraw from there and do not pursue. On wide open terrain, the force of momentum is equalized, and it is hard to make a challenge, disadvantageous to fight. Understanding these 6 kinds of terrain is the highest responsibility of the general, and it is imperative to examine them. These are the configurations of terrain. Generals who do not know them lose. So among military forces, there are those who rush, those who tarry, those who fall, those who crumble, those who riot, and those who get beaten. These are not natural disasters, but faults of the generals. Those who have equal momentum, but strike 10 with 1, are in a rush. Those whose soldiers are strong, but whose officers are weak, tarry. Those whose officers are strong, but whose soldiers are weak, fall. When colonels are angry and obstreperous, and fight on their own out of spite when they meet opponents, and the generals do not know their abilities, they crumble. Generally speaking, the entire military leadership has to be of one mind. All the military forces have to cooperate in order to be able to defeat opponents. When the generals are weak and lack authority, instructions are not clear. Officers and soldiers lack consistency, and they form battle lines every which way. This is riot. When the generals cannot assess opponents, clash with much greater numbers or more powerful forces, and do not sort out the levels of skill among their own troops, these are the ones who get beaten. If you employ soldiers without sorting out the skilled and unskilled, the brave and the timid, you are bringing defeat on yourself. These are 6 ways to defeat. Understanding this is the ultimate responsibility of the generals. They must be examined. First is not assessing numbers. Second is lack of a clear system of punishments and rewards. Third is failure in training. Fourth is irrational overexcitement. Fifth is ineffectiveness of law and order. And sixth is failure to choose the strong and resolute. The contour of the land is an aid to an army. Sizing up opponents to determine victory, assessing dangers and distances, is the proper course of action for military leaders. Those who do battle knowing these will win. Those who do battle without knowing these will lose. laws of war indicate certain victory, it is surely appropriate to do battle, even if the government says there is to be no battle. If the laws of war do not indicate victory, it is appropriate not to do battle, even if the government orders war. Thus, one advances without seeking glory, retreats without avoiding blame, only protecting people to the benefit of the government as well, thus rendering valuable service to the nation. Advancing and retreating contrary to government orders is not done for personal interest, but only to safeguard the lives of the people and accord with the true benefit of the government. Such loyal employees are valuable to a nation. Look upon your soldiers as you do infants, and they willingly go into deep valleys with you. Look upon your soldiers as beloved children, and they willingly die with you. If you are so nice to them that you cannot employ them, so kind to them that you cannot command them, so casual with them that you cannot establish order, they are like spoiled children, useless. Rewards should not be used alone. Punishments should not be relied on in isolation. Otherwise, like spoiled children, people will become accustomed to either enjoying or resenting everything. This is harmful and renders them useless. If you know your soldiers are capable of striking, but do not know whether the enemy is invulnerable to a strike, you have half a chance of winning. If you know the enemy is vulnerable to a strike, but do not know if your soldiers are incapable of making such a strike, you have half a chance of winning. If you know the enemy is vulnerable to a strike, and know your soldiers can make the strike, but do not know if the lay of the land makes it unsuitable for battle, you have half a chance of winning. Therefore, those who know martial arts do not wander when they move, and do not become exhausted when they rise up. So it is said that when you know yourself and others, victory is not in danger. When you know sky and earth, victory is inexhaustible. When you know what is to others' advantage and what is to your advantage, you are not in danger. When you know the season and the terrain, you do not come to an impasse. Chapter